Boys, there was a absolutely overwhelming amount of information that came in the League reveal. If you haven't seen it, go watch the trailers. You just go watch it. It is a lot. And I can assume that if I am overwhelmed, you are most likely overwhelmed as well. But there is one particular thing that I just had to make a video about first, before the patch notes, before everything else, and that is about these boys. If you are not aware, this is potentially the strongest item that has ever been added to Path of Exile ever. And I feel relatively confident saying that. This item is insane. And when this was first revealed on stream, I was like, oh, you know, it'd probably be a pretty good item because it's just going to give you a 5th Ascendancy point. It's going to be super rare. 5th Ascendancy point is crazy powerful. But then in the Q&A with Ziggy, Chris was like, oh yeah, and yes, it does work for other ascendancies of your class. And I'm just like, okay, it is literally the strongest item that I've ever even heard of. So what I want to do in this video is I want to go over a couple of the things that immediately came to mind when I thought of like, have a random ascendant point from a random ascendancy. We're going to go over some of them, so let's get into it. But before we do, if you're enjoying this content, make sure to like the video and also subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest content. I'm also going to be streaming a bunch on twitch.tv. Now that I've done all of the shameless self-promotion, let's actually get into it. I don't even know where to begin, but of course we're going to begin with probably one of the most powerful nodes in the entire tree when it comes to this. So the way that these gems work, jewels work, is that if you have both of the matching jewels and you insert them into your tree, you just get gifted any ascendancy point from your class. Initially, when I first heard that this is what was going to happen, like when the item was first released, I was like, oh, so it's just going to give us like a 5th ascendancy point from our, you know, whatever ascendancy we choose. But no, Chris clarified on the Q&A with Ziggy that it is from any of the ascendancies of your class. So if you're playing like a Detonate Dead Necromancer and you want Profane Bloom, perfect. If you're playing a Detonate Dead Necromancer and you want Shaper of Flames, go for it, dude. They're gonna be insanely expensive, but I wanna go over a few of the ideas that popped into my head, because honestly, a lot of these are just insane. When I said that this is going to be one of the most powerful items that has ever been added in a PoE, I was not kidding. So going through the Occultist, I mean, obviously Profane Bloom, right? The fact that you can just get quarter life pops for anything that is, you know, like cursed nearby you, and you've got chaos damage, it's like, that's insane. On top of that, Malediction isn't bad. It's additional curse as well as Malediction, 10% increased damage done and 10% reduced damage taken. So that's really strong. I mean, these are kind of whatever. They'll still be good for the builds that do use those things, but that you kind of want to be an Occultist anyways. And then you've got like cannot be stunned with Energy Shield, and then you've got the power charge stacking from Forbidden Power. Occultist has mainly 2 really good nodes and then a third one that's okay. And then when you go to Elementalist, I mean, Elementalist doesn't have a ton of nodes that I'd be super interested in having on another build. Like, the Golem nodes or whatever, they're not going to be that bad. Bastion of Elements is pretty okay, but Shaper of Flames, having that on one of the other ascendancies sounds absolutely busted. This node is really, really powerful. So if you were playing, once again, an Ignite, Detonate, Dead Necromancer, and you just got Shaper of Flames, you could scale your Detonate Dead with pretty much anything you wanted. All of the Chaos, Ignite scaling and things that you could do, you could absolutely do that. And then when it comes to the Necromancer, say you wanted to play like a Elementalist build, and you just got +2 to level of minion gems for free. There's not that many other crazy things that are on the Necromancer. I mean, Bone Armor is kind of cool. Mindless Aggression is not really going to do anything. I mean, I guess that would be like a decent additional one to have if you can't afford the Unnatural Strength one, because these are going to be stupidly expensive. But the rest of these are okay. Mistress of Sacrifice is cool. The rest of these are fine, but I would say that most of the other nodes of the Necromancer, you're going to want to be a Necromancer anyways, because you just want all of the nodes here. So, I mean, Witch has got some pretty crazy stuff. If we move over to the Shadow, there are a couple very particular ones in here. When it comes to the Assassin, I would say anything on this bottom half is pretty decent if you're going to go crit. But honestly, if you're going to be a crit Shadow, you're probably going Assassin anyways. However, if you just want a free Elusive on either of the other builds, that seems pretty good. If you're going, say, you know, like Fizz Trap Saboteur, which ended up being perfectly fine in my opinion, judging by the patch notes. So you could get, you know, any of these nice little crit nodes here that would be really, really super powerful. Deadly Infusion, Unstable Infusion. I mean, it seems like it'd be pretty good, right? Or like I said, free Elusive, and also, you know, just increased Elusive effect. That'd be pretty solid. From the Trickster, you could take something like Weave the Arcane if you're you're playing a movement ability that just needs, you know, like, it has a mana problem or something like that. You could also do, like, Harness the Void. Gaining a bunch of non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage can be really, really powerful. The Trickster's kind of bad right now, but, you know, obviously everybody's going to be really excited about Heartstopper, right? But anyways, the one from the Saboteur that would be interesting for the other two is going to be Explosives Expert. This is going to give you crit multi, crit strike chance, as well as damage penetration of elemental resistances. And Born in the Shadows could be okay as well. The rest of these, maybe Pyromaniac could be okay, but you're not really going to do Traps and Mines as any of the other two Ascendancies, so the rest of this is not that crazy. But definitely Explosives Expert and Born in the Shadows are pretty decent. Next one we're going to talk about here is the Ranger. The Ranger doesn't have that much crazy stuff, but it has a lot of just really solid things. Like, for example, the Deadeye, most of the nodes on the Deadeye are just pretty powerful for any kind of projectile build. So if you were going like Pathfinder or you were going Raider Toxic Rain or something, a lot of these nodes would be really strong for that, right? Like additional projectiles is okay, Occupying Force. This is one of the main Toxic Rain nodes from this Ascendancy that you would use, since Deadeye Toxic Rain technically does work. Or you could get the Tailwind node. The Focal Point node is being changed to where it's going to allow you to move the mark around to different enemies as you kill things. From the Pathfinder, you can literally just take Nature's Boon and have most of the effectiveness of the Pathfinder. You've got Flask gain 3 charges every 3 seconds and 20% chance for your Flask not to consume a charge. There you go, you got free Flask forever on the other two Ascendancies. From the Raider, there's not a ton of really great nodes here. You could probably go like Avatar of the Slaughter, or maybe Free Phasing and Suppression, or Avatar of the Chase. That's probably the ones that I would choose. Just generic Onslaught's not that powerful. Way of the Poacher, +1 Frenzy charge, that's okay. But yeah, like Avatar of the Veil, yeah, maybe this would be okay. 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments. Might be decent if it's something you need on your build. But now let's talk about probably the most jam-packed, powerful Ascendancy, just one node champion breaking classes in the entire game. I feel that the Duelist has probably more single game or build defining Ascendancy points out of any other Ascendancy in the entire game, and there's just so many. For example, we've got Gratuitous Violence. This is Bleed Pops. This is the entire Ascendancy at this point. People don't really go the block stuff anymore. They go it for Gratuitous Violence and Arena Challenger. These two nodes are pretty insane. This just makes your build zoom, and Gratuitous Violence just makes you have free Explodey, just huge Explodey. It's got, as long as you're bleeding them at all, just get a little bit of bleed chance, you're getting, you know, 10% of their maximum life exploding as Fizz damage. That's pretty good. Those two are the main ones here, and then when you've come to the champion, you've got Master of Metal that you could have on like a Slayer now, so you could scale Impales really high. Free 20 fortification. You've got intimidate enemies on low life and gain adrenaline. You can do low life on on a Slayer. We've got inspirational, which is going to make your auras insanely powerful. And then we have the Slayer, which has got overleech as well as just like 20% cull. Is it 20%? Yeah, 20% cull. And then you've got like the crit node here that you could take on, you know, the champion. The champion has issues with scaling crit properly, and you could take the overwhelm node. I mean, there's so many crazy nodes in here. I mean, on top of that, you got the Masterful Form thing with like the multi-charge stacking and all that, right? There's so many crazy one-off notables on the Duelist. There's gonna be so many to choose from that are gonna be good, but these are all gonna be expensive, almost assuredly. Now, moving to the Ascendant, we don't know exactly which ones are available, but they did say on the Q&A that the Ascendant has their own ones. Now, I'm wondering if like the Paths one are available, because if you could go like Path of the Witch and Path of the Duelist, plus being here and going to the left or right, you might be able to just get every cluster jewel in the entire game at this point. If not, and you can only get like the Necromancer, Elementalist, whatever, if you can only get one of these, that's still decent, but the Scion doesn't really have a ton of things going for it. But having an entire additional Ascendancy point on here could be pretty powerful. Now let's move over to the Marauder. There's one particular node that I was thinking about when I was looking at the Marauder. This is the first one that actually came to mind, is what if you were a Berserker and you were able to just get Undeniable, and you were able to gain accuracy rating equal to twice of your strength and do an accuracy stack Berserker. That sounds pretty ridiculous, huh? That's the first thing that came to mind for me, at least. There's a bunch of other nodes here that aren't that great when it comes to the Juggernaut, but then the Berserker, you could just get free Aspect of Carnage on either of the other ones, or you could get Blitz and just attack really super fast if you still wanted to go a Juggernaut. And then you've got the Chieftain, who doesn't really have that cool of stuff, but I mean, I guess it'd be cool if you got like Tassalio or something like that. I don't know, the Chieftain doesn't really have almost anything. But yeah, I mean, those are the two things that came to mind, was like Aspect of Carnage or Blitz, or just taking Undeniable as a Berserker. I mean, it seems pretty insane. Now last, but not exactly least, we're coming to the Templar. The main things that came to mind from the Templar was playing like a Hierophant or a Guardian or something and pulling some of these nodes off of it, but I do think that potentially this is the weakest use out of them. There may be something cool in here, but when I was looking through like the Guardian nodes and such, like you've got this block node, which is pretty cool. You've got some random Guardian nodes here, which can be okay, but it's nothing like game breaking that I can at least see right off the get-go. Maybe some kind of like weird mana stacking, life reserving stuff here. Maybe you could do something along the lines of like scaling one of the mana nodes, or Conviction of Power is probably pretty good. Just having those minimum endurance and power charges on like one of the other two ascendancies might be pretty solid. Because then if you did that plus Harmony of Purpose, if you were a Guardian for like some kind of like group build, that might be okay. But Conviction of Power seems to be the only one here that seems like really, really good. Maybe the Arcane Blessing, Illuminated Devotion Tree or something like that, but the Totem one I'm not so sure about, and the mana ones, yeah, you could probably do it. But then if you were one of these other builds like a Hierophant or something, pulling one of the nodes from the Inquisitor seems like it could be really, really, really powerful, especially if you were trying to go some kind of totem build. Rest in peace totems, by the way, they annihilated their chess piece. Hopefully, you know, they get some kind of cool items that haven't been released yet, but, you know. Yeah, I mean, with the Inquisitor, you might be able to pull one of these nodes out here. The Inquisitor has a bunch of really powerful nodes, it just depends on which ones are going to be most useful. But yeah, I mean, absolutely ridiculous, this item. And that is going to be it. Let me know if you've got any other really cool ideas for this item down in the comments. I know that we're probably not going to be able to afford this thing. It's going to be ridiculously expensive, but we can dream, right? We can think of all the cool things that we could do, and we can play the true end game of Path of Exile, which is sitting in Path of Building for 10 hours straight and just figuring out what kind of build that you wish that you could play. But remember, boys, if you enjoy the content, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure to hit the notification bell for more videos like this, and stay safe out there in Raid class. And I'll see you guys in the next video.